so then we shouldn't stay home and grieve for them. We should be concerned for them, send them energy in the form of love and in dollars to help, whether we do that because we already did it with Houston or Florida, but to be there for them and to know that we are concerned for them. But out of that turmoil, there will be, Puerto Rico will get rebuilt. And because of the development and the evolution of rebuilding things, it will come back and it will be more beautiful and more prosperous and healthier and livelier. It'll probably become a tourist attraction more than already, and it will be a blessing for them. So while we're concerned for them, and we hurt for them, we know what they're going through, we also know that at the end of their tunnel there's a light, and there's a light switch too that they can turn on now, so that they get they enjoy the results of that turmoil can bring. So as we share these ideas, who had the birthday with the birthday cake? Oh, he did. So, well, I always say I'll be 90 in October, and I will be. On October the 4th, I'll be 90. But not this October the 4th. So there's just one little thing you're already going to learn this morning is when you go to get your driver's license renewed, you just tell them you'll be 90 in May or September, whenever your birthday is. And they'll just look at you, and then you say the punchline, which is not this May or September. And then they'll go, oh, we're dealing with somebody here who's just a little bit different. Because listen, when you go to, this is about your thinking and how we think about it. And we are spiritual beings first, and then we have bodies with brains and hearts. And when we understand who we are and where we're coming from, then we can grab hold of life and its wonderful opportunities and make something really spectacular of ourselves and our efforts and our talents. So when you go to the DMV, they have the power to limit your travel. Your car keys those are your keys to freedom, those car keys, and the house key and everything else. And so when you go in there, you generally surrender. Everybody does this. They surrender their power at the door and just hope that everything will work out and that they'll like them and that they'll give them their driver's license. And the truth is, they don't have that power. You have that power to know what the rules are, to know how to use your turn indicator, to know how to park and drive, and to know the current qualifications and guidelines. And you have that power. And so when they meet people on the other side of their counter, they recognize that those people are terrified in many cases, and those people have lost their power. They've given them the power. So I think they just kind of take that for granted. And I'm sure they're all very nice people. They're probably in church right this minute. And they're loving, and they have families, and they care, and they have a driver's license. But then when we go there, we surrender our power. And then as a result, they take our picture. And we don't look good in that picture because we don't got no power. So what you do is you power up before you go in there the next time, and you be prepared to smile and be nice and bring out the best in them so that they can be on with you and go to the next person. And you have that power to make a difference. And then when they take your picture that time, and you show it to like bartenders and other things, They'll say, oh, that's a good picture of you. Well, you have to do that. They'll say, that's a good picture of you. And you go, yeah, I had my power on. So here are the ideas I want to share. First of all, your mind is where it's all at, which is not the way to end a sentence. But your mind is where it's at. Then your heart follows. And the real starting place is the soul of you. Now, let's talk about these stations. First of all, your soul. You are an old soul. You have been around. We were all created at the same time by the same loving, energetic, inspired Father, Mother, God. And we were all there. So we're all the same age. And then God, like you would cast pearls on velvet, cast us all forth. And some rolled ahead of the others. And those that were ahead looked back and said, where is everybody? Come on, let's go. And then they realized they would have to blaze a trail. And then those that followed had those trails, those blazing trails, to be like a guideline for them. And it's my belief, and I think it's yours too, that we have lived many lives. And this means that we've all been every color of person that there's been able to be. And all of us have been men and women, and then every station in between. We've all had babies. And, I don't have any stretch marks, but I believe that spiritually that's happened. And we've all been rich. We've all been poor. We've all been extremely handsome or beautiful. And we've all been had physical problems and limitations and situations that we had to live with and overcome. If we look back on this, we could see with compassion and understanding that since there's someone else, maybe someone else that's not the color that we are this life, we have to love them and understand them because we've been there, we've done that. And if someone with physical limitations, mentally or physically, and they're not like us, we have to realize that we have been like that. Or if we have a real rigid observation of it, we will get to walk in those shoes so that we can learn what we need to learn, or we can learn it, if we haven't already learned it, by having love, understanding, forgiveness, and acceptance. And then that can help us move on with our life and be not a limitation or a stumbling block or a point of rejection for them, but to facilitate the smoothness, the flow of good and love and all that stuff by being loving and seeing the good. So spiritually, you are as old as God and dirt, and you are you are a spiritual being. And when I say these words to you, your spiritual beingness is applauding and giving a standing ovation to Spirit and saying, now, did you hear that? He's right about this about you. You are a spiritual being. And so we're all the same age. No, none of us are old, even if, we're going to be 90 in October. And so when you connect with that vitality of Spirit, then it eliminates and erases the barriers that are brought about by thinking you're old, or thinking you're limited, or thinking that you can't have what you want. So you are a spiritual being, and that is the truth. And if you know that truth that you know will set you free. But you have to know it for you to be free. Somebody else can tell you, but until you know it, it isn't yours to own, and it isn't yours to use and do. So if you know the truth that you are a spiritual being, then you shall be free to do whatever you want, to overcome whatever you want, and to have whatever you want, and be whatever you want. So There's just no limit. So then, your realistic earthly part of you says, yeah, no limits. Oh, yeah, well, what about this and that? Well, there are ways that you can think of to work around those limitations, use them to your advantage, and overcome them by finding what is unlimited. And by doing that, then you can change your story, and you've got to do this. And now's the time. We have to do this now. We can't say, oh, I already did it. When I was younger, I did it. No, we have to do it now, because tomorrow, then the rest of our life is just waiting for us. And we need and want to be the best we can to launch into all those tomorrows, because we can, and because our friends, our family, and our enemies are watching. And we want to give them something to see. So this is an important step in our process, to realize that as a spiritual being, I can have what I want, and I need to let my thinking arrange the possibilities and start with thought. So now then, in New Thought and Metaphysics, we are very loving, sweet, and generous people. And we have hearts, big hearts, that have been mended and broken and mended many times. And we believe in the light and in the good and everything. In La Jolla, where I live, the community newspaper is called The Light. And I like to sing, and so I sing on Friday nights at this little Italian restaurant. And it's a gift that I have it's my gift I give to sing, whether they like it or not. No, I don't. But other people that sing there do get their supper, but I don't sing for my supper or drinks or anything. I just sing. And the lady that plays the piano is Audrey. She's adorable. She lives in Lakeside, which she calls Bakeside. And so she can play anything, and we just sing. And there are a couple of other people. They're women, and they have beautiful voices, and they sing. So we just have a really good time. And so the other day, the owner of this restaurant was in the little local newspaper. And they had his picture and a story about how he was Italian and he worked on a cruise ship and he came to California and was a chef and then a waiter and on the cruise ship. And it was a real sweet Cinderella success story. And so he was in the paper. So I asked Linda, who is a singer. She sings at the Unity Church in San Diego. And so I asked her, I said, did you see Enzo in The Light? And she went, The Light? Like, did he die? You know? No. No, The Light, the newspaper, The Light. So, but then another little Linda story is one of the songs I sing, besides I'm Gonna Hire a Wino to Decorate Our Home, is All My Exes Live in Texas. And it just have fun songs in and have a good time singing. And so she knew me as the guy in a Hawaiian shirt that sings All My Exes Live in Texas. So then I was speaking at the Unity Church in San Diego, and I had on my church outfit, and she was singing in the choir. And when you're giving this gift, which is really special, and as a musician, she was busy with her part of giving her gift. And when it was all over and she sat down, then they introduced the speaker. And when you're speaking to people, and this is very sweet, you bounce off of them. And you can tell, Marilyn knows about this especially, you can tell when they're getting something or they're having an experience. And so here I get up to speak, and all of a sudden one head pops up and eyes are real bright, and I go, oh, and I knew it was Linda because I didn't know she went to that church, but I recognized her when she was singing in the choir and doing a really beautiful job. And she looked up and she didn't know I was the minister. She didn't know that I was the guest speaker. She thought I was going to sing all my exes in Texas. But let's catch up with where we are, which is my way of saying Arthur. So you are a spiritual being. We have big hearts, and we see people in the light, the brightest possible light. This is what we do. And when we miss the opportunity, we really make mistakes because we could have turned that moment of awkwardness or uncomfortableness because someone isn't behaving at their best. We miss the opportunity to be a blessing and to create a blessing and to exercise our gift. But anyway, we see people in the light, and we have big hearts. And our hearts sometimes get in the way of our thinking because we say, oh, I feel. Well, our feelings are determined by our thoughts. And anyone with disrupted feelings can correct those feelings and soothe and heal them immediately by going to their source of the feeling, which is their thought, and saying, what am I thinking about this? What am I telling myself about this? What's the flash headline that I'm giving this? And is that true? Does that serve me? Is that what I really believe? Or is that just a surface thought that's helping me react to what's going on instead of the kind of quality, deep, cultivated, positive, spiritually based thought that I'm capable of coming up with? So then we can put the agitation on hold and say, I'll be right back. I need a word from our sponsor. I need to know I need to think about this. And so it is fair in a relationship, at work, at home, or a personal thing that's going on to ask for a timeout. And this can be done with sign language, or it can be done with words. Excuse me, I need to take a break. I need a timeout. I know what we're talking about here. I know what the situation is, and I know that I need to be a part of the solution or communicating about it or healing it or whatever, but I need time to get grounded because this is like a new flash to me, and I just need a minute. So may we talk about this later? May I come back to this? And then you would retreat from the situation, the frustration, the anxiety, the stress, and in prayer and meditation and reflection and contemplation and analyzing your thought and thinking, you could then discuss with yourself, what do I think is going on? And is this the quality, is this the cream of the crop, or is this the bottom feeder stuff that I do not need to be a part of? What would Jesus do? What would a hero of mine do? What would someone who had everything to gain and nothing to lose do? Well, how would somebody really rich think about this? How would somebody that is loving and kind, what would they do? And then, no one's going to hear you or see you, so you could escape into all of these avenues of answers that are just waiting for you to tap into because your mind can do this. And how can your mind do this? Because you've been around forever. Your soul consciousness knows all these answers and how to implement them at this time in your life. Because this time, of all the times you've ever lived and loved and grown and excelled and failed, of all those times, this is the one you're in. This is it. This is the most beautiful and valuable opportunities to express who you are than you've ever had before. So it's not like, well, I'm tired, or I'm old, or I've already given at the office or wherever. You say no, with tireless energy and lots of effort and consciousness and a flair for living and being alive. I'm ready. Put me in first class. Don't put me in coach. Put me in first class because I'm ready to go. So, and understanding that, then we see that we are spiritual beings. We have loving hearts, and beyond, above, and beyond the loving heart part is we have a God-given brain. And we need to activate and use our brain to create thinking that guides our heart and expresses our soul. So how do we do that? Well, we first of all take responsibility. And that's the big R, responsibility. You are responsible for what happens. Well, and let's take some responsibility, past, present, and future. We live in a three-dimensional world, past, present, and future. And so we take responsibility for what happened. Maybe you were a victim. Maybe it wasn't fair. Maybe you were just standing there and pow, something knocked you for a loop. If you take responsibility for that, you could say, well, I was there. I didn't invite it. I didn't request it. It just happened. But it just happened, and in claiming my responsibility, I'll claim responsibility for the one that the universe saw that could handle it. So instead of something coming along and making me a victim or crippling me in some way, it gave me the opportunity to be the strongest, most successful poster person for that situation. And it was really a blessing. And maybe I didn't do so well understanding it at the time, but I can look back now and release everything that would cloud that and get to the place in my consciousness where what I should have done then, I can know that I could have done or should have done, and that then I believe in myself and know that I could have done it. And now I will do it. I'll be victorious. I'll be understanding. I'll be braver. I'll be courageous. Or I'll see myself as the winner. And so we can look back and say, thank you, Father, for everything that happened just the way it happened. There was something going on. Then I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. And I may not be able to see it now, but in my heart of hearts, I believe that this was meant to be a blessing to me, to strengthen me, and to make me more possible for everything that is yet to be. As we develop these qualities of thought and soul and heart, we prepare ourselves for the future. And believe me, if you think today and the past has been challenging, you haven't seen anything yet. But you will be stronger and more capable and more creative with all the things that are possible in the future because you made the most of the now, giving thanks for what was. So as we take responsibility, we take responsibility for what was, even if we were asleep at the wheel or we weren't paying attention or we were just plain mean. Take responsibility and then be responsible for now. And in the now, the part of the responsibility is that here and now is where I am. This is my address. And I have the ability to look at here and now, not in the same old familiar way, but in a way that's creative, filled with possibilities and inspiration, and the desire to be different than I've normally been, and to turn over a new leaf and to recreate myself to be the best that I can be, and to be the best that I can be in listening to God's still small voice that comes from my brain, that comes from my heart, and that comes from my accumulated consciousness, my soul story. So we take responsibility. Then you go, well, okay, then if I'm responsible for my thoughts and I can think about what I want, and I can make it happen because I'm responsible. And I believe that. And of course, that's the big key there. You got to believe it. You have to believe in yourself and in God's presence within you. And you have to know that you are special. You're created to be here as a participant and an owner, not a renter. But you own this. You own the moment. And you own your life. And you own the possibilities of what shall be, because you're going to figure out how it shall be. You'll think of something. And so we come to the story of how you think, how you were raised to think about yourself. And hopefully you had people that loved you and nurtured you and believed in every possibility for you. And more than likely, you had people who didn't care, who you were an inconvenience, who had other plans, who didn't know how to express their love, and they didn't know the damage that they could do with rejection and judgment and criticism. And so somehow, in your absorption of all this, and your eagerness to learn about how you're going to do it at this time, in this lifetime, you believed all them and with the things they said. And that they didn't know what they were doing. They were doing the best they could with what they knew. And so you love them and give thanks for them and bless them on their way wherever they are and wish the best for them. Because what you wish for others is what you get for yourself. And if you're thinking about, oh, they're suffering, then you're going to get it. And so you can't, it can't be any better for you than you wish for it to be for everyone else. And if you have an enemy, wish for them that all of the good that could possibly happen in their life would happen all at once. Now that's good. So what you have to do is you say, that's not the truth about me. But I believed it, and I've heard it, I've replayed it all my life. That's just, that's not the truth. The truth, and if I listen to my heart of hearts and the Christ within me, the Spirit of God within me, then I'll know, it'll tell me what's the truth. And it'll help me just clear off all those layers of veneer that are clouding the possibilities that I have. You could create for yourself a great awakening if you take responsibility and if you want to and if you believe this truth about you. And, I can tell you all these things, and so does Gay, who is just so devoted to you, and I know you're devoted to her, and the spiritual thing that's going on in this place, it's magic. And when you're here and a part of it, you help the magic along, and it helps you along. So show up every chance you get, and be here, and do, serve, give, volunteer, put money into this, and put your dreams and your vision into this, because this is a special thing that only can happen when people get together and roll up their sleeves and give their spiritual gift and awareness. So, but Gay, everybody that fills you with inspiration, authors and all that, they can tell you about this, but you have to say, I believe this. This is the truth about me. And then this, believing this takes work and time, and you have a legitimate distraction, because I have to get gas. I have to get air in the tire of my car. I have to wash my hair. I have to do the laundry. I've got the kids to pick up, and But when you set aside the time to develop this level of awareness that you need to step up to all the time, every birthday, every year, move along. When you set aside the time to do this development and you are committed to it, then that's when your growth happens. You have to take care of yourself and do your homework. And this is an important thing to be reminded of. So, as a spiritual being who has a tremendous heart, but a brain that can help you figure things out and know what to do, then you take responsibility, the big R, and you say, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for the care and the maintenance and the keeping, but also for the exploration to discover what it is that I can do, that I'm to do now in my life. And then you decide, okay, what is that going to look like? What do I want? And then you have fun creating the possibles that there are once you get to this place that you've created for yourself. And you will be presented by Spirit opportunities and visions of you doing things that you've maybe all of your life wanted to do, but never realized that now's the time. And with this kind of awareness, it's almost like, you got to be kidding, God. Me do this? And the truth is, nothing is ever given to us that we can't accomplish. No challenge is bigger than we can overcome. And no gift is larger than we can give or receive. And so when you accept the responsibility and you know that, and that's the truth that sets you free to then do what needs to be done. So you have a dream time where you say, what am I to do? What's next? What difference am I going to make in my corner of the world? What's up? And then you ask God for signs and messages and inspiration and to send you the word. And then you're open, you're receptive, you're fertile for the possibilities. And then all kinds of magical things start to happen because you're on. You've put yourself in this position. And nothing has ever been sliced so thin that it doesn't have two sides. And so you have to be aware of the dark side. Because if you can, your brain can help you figure out all the possibilities and that are filled with light, rainbows and butterflies, all that stuff. And your brain can also, if you wish, can take you to the scary, the dark, and the mysterious, limited other side. So you have to say, thank you for the balance. And thank you for the awareness that I could mismanage or that I could, with inspiration, manage and with the light touch and create all kinds of possibles. So when we have when we invite what's next to reveal itself to us, there may be some things that we have to eliminate or move beyond that would hold us back and keep on the bright side, the sunny side of the street. So that comes with responsibility. We have to believe that we have the mind there's scripture that says you have the mind that was in Christ Jesus. Because we have the same Father. So knowing that, then we activate that mind just as Jesus did. I'll get to him in just a minute. And so we acknowledge that we have the ability to think, and that we have the mind, the higher mind of spirit, to help us know what it is that we want to do now. Then we play with the idea. We open ourselves up, and this can often happen when people are at a retreat or at a spiritual campground or even on Sunday morning. But you can create this anytime. You can even drive a car while it's going on and do the laundry and get the air in your tires and everything else, because you're open and receptive for the guidance. Then when the guidance comes, you want to own it, accept it. Say, I can do that. I mean, I don't know how, but I don't need to know how. I just need to know that I can do it, and God will show me how. So then you put it in writing. and this is very urgent information. Everything you put in writing, then the paper on making contact with the ink starts the magic to flow. So you put it in writing, and then you get that written goal concise by editing and taking out all the stuff and when that isn't necessary. And as you're editing your thinking in your brain and your belief about who you are and what you can do with what you are. And this gets edited so that it is concise, deliberate, conscious, on target, like you. Then, with that in mind, you have that in front of you all the time. You have it in writing in your pocket or purse at a place where you see it all the time. I feng shui the money in my wallet. I have it in denominations, hundreds, 50s, 20s, and I have it so that I see the green part, because green is not the color of prosperity. Green is the color of growth. And when you grow, you prosper, and you also have more income. And it also on the green side says, "In God we trust." So the source is God. So every time I open my wallet to use my money that I'm so grateful to have, I realize that it's there because of growth, and it's there because of the source, which is God. And that reminds me, and then spending money is an affirmation of wealth. And it's also because it's in denominational numbers, not denominations like churches, but denominations like money. Then it's in order, and so then I can just do that. I'm in the habit of that, so that there's order elsewhere in my life that's important to me, instead of clutter and disarray. So by having things in order, by putting God first, by seeing it, thinking about it differently than you used to, then that furthers the meaning and acts magnetically to draw more opportunities, to find more meaning, and to develop more thought and consciousness that comes from the soul and the heart and the mind of God that's within us. So you take responsibility, you ask, what do I want? You put that in writing, and if you're like me, there are more than one things to want, and some of them are shallow and not very hard to obtain, and others are going to take time and be more difficult, but they're still what I want. And I can get to having those deeper meaning results that I want as I also accomplish little things along the way. So you know what you want, you put it in writing, you review that at all times, and then you start to watch the magic happen. And this is the fun process, because things will happen that you never thought would happen, that you never dreamed possible to happen. One of my best things to happen to me was I knew, and my birthday really is on Wednesday, and I will be 75, and I just can't wait to be that old. The other day I did something, and it just made me feel so good. I told Virginia, I said, it just so invigorating. I had so much energy. I felt like I was 60 again. But I knew, I knew that I was in trouble. When I was in the Navy, I served my country. I was not college material, and I knew that. And so I went to a source where I was free from my parents, and where my Uncle Sam, would have food and lodging for me while I learned about where I needed to be. I'm very grateful for that whole thing. And so one night, after going to downtown San Diego and being 18 years old and going back to Balboa Hospital, where I was in corps school to be a corpsman, and which later turned out to be like paramedic. It was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. I laid down to go to sleep on my little bunk, and I had a locker that was by the bunk that was 2 feet square that had everything I owned in it. And on my way to my bunk and my locker, I went past this house that just took my breath away. I had gone up Fifth Avenue, was going across the Laurel Street Bridge and to the hospital, and here was this house, and they were having a party, and it was just delicious. The lights were blazing in every room of this big mansion. There was a grand staircase with people with big silver trays full of food and snacks and drinks, and people were getting out of big black long cars and limousines and going up a red carpeted staircase in evening clothes with furs and diamonds and tuxedos, and just going in to see have fun and see their friends and party and dance, and you could hear music. Oh, I just thought, oh. Then I went to lay on my little bed, in my little locker, and I thought, how did that happen? And I really did think, how did that happen? How do you get that? How do you have those friends? How do you find somebody to carry those trays of food around? How do you do that? And I went to sleep, and the next day, it was Sunday, and I remember I'm going to go back and see that house in daylight. I just to make sure I wasn't dreaming, and I went back. I traced my steps back, and there was the doors, the windows, the glass, the red carpet had been rolled up, and it was the San Diego Museum of Fine Art. And I said, "Oh hell, Arthur. You can't tell a house from a museum. How are you ever going to do this? How are you ever going to do this?" And I realized they were having a big opening, and it was glamorous and beautiful, and I didn't know. I didn't know. And so then that night, I thought, I've still got a ways to go. This is, I've got a lot to learn. And then at that point I said, I really remember this. I've got to figure this out. I can't call long distance and speak to my parents. They don't know either, and I've got to figure this out. And so that was a epiphany, a great awakening. And then by asking to figure it out, then the doors started to open because I was knocking on them with my desire. Desire is a beautiful word. It means thee, which in the Romance languages means of thee, and sire means father, the racehorse business. So desire means of the Father, and your heart's desire is God knocking on the door of your heart to say, let me out and let me express. So when we take responsibility, we know what we want, we put it in writing, we believe we can have it, and we listen, and we're committed to it, then the magic starts to happen. And things unfold for you that you would never have believed possible. I've known people. I knew a guy who wanted to be an astronaut. He was too old. He was too old to go to the college to get the degree in aerospace intelligence that he would need to qualify. He didn't have enough time on the planet left, even if he was going to live to be 1,000. He was there. So what he did was, and it was his inspiration, nobody told him but God, to go to the Aerospace Museum, just not far from the one. I didn't know what was a mansion or not, and to be a volunteer and work in space. That's what he wanted. And he was so cute and invigorated and eager and likable and happy that they said, we want you to do this. We want you to talk to these kids. Well, we want you to learn about this and then speak about it. And the next thing he knew, they said, we've got a space suit that you have to put on to give this talk, and put the visor up. And you have to sit in this spaceship and simulate a journey around the moon. Can you do that? And he realized, I can do that, but this is what I wanted all the time. And I didn't have to do all the investing of time and energy to make it happen. It happened because I knew this is what I wanted to do. And then the magic came. So now let's talk about our role model. Our role model is Jesus the Christ. And he said, the things that I do, you can do also, and even greater things than these shall you do. And who's not to say that those greater things haven't already been done? Transforming lives through advances in health and healthcare and treatment and healing arts. Phenomenal results there. Prosperity, understanding, awareness, being in touch with God's source within. All of this has been brought about because of people believing that they could make a difference. But when Jesus was born that night in December, it really wasn't, but they're saying it was, the wise men came and they brought extravagant gifts. And when they got there, Mary and Joseph were very sweet and kind, but they said, what are we going to do with this? What have we got? Where are we ever going to use myrrh and incense and gold? I mean, the people, what will we ever do? But then when they had to flee to Egypt for their life, all those things furnished their lives until they returned home for maybe 12 years. But also in this magic that happened, they told Jesus of his birth, of how special he was. And he knew this, he believed this, and he believed the calling of his heart that said, you are my child, in whom I'm well pleased. And anything that you would like to do to express the spiritual qualities that you are created in the image and likeness of, I'll help you with. And so he entered into teaching at the temple, absorbing information, looking at what people were thinking, finding how that could be upgraded several degrees to enhance their lives and their culture. This just became his style. And so when we look back at you, as I touched on a minute ago, they may not have known how special you are. They may have just been busy thinking that you got in the way of their life, or that they didn't know what to do with you or how to raise you. Martha Stewart and the babies are us, and all that hadn't been created at that point, so they didn't know what they were doing. So they told you things that are not true about you. So when you realize that like Jesus was empowered because of all the love he had, you may not have been empowered because of the love you didn't get then, but you can be empowered because of the love you can give yourself now. And so one of the ways to do that is when you see somebody that's causing static or disruption, just send them a blessing and be thankful that you can learn from their bad behavior how to offset that with better behavior on your part. And use that wisdom to see the possibilities that you can create. And they may not ever reach them because they're too upset for anybody to make any sense for them. But the solutions and the force of energy and the positive good that you can create for you that will spill over to all the lives that are touching yours. So when we look at Jesus and we see his style, he began with a lot of support and love. And then he took that and invested it into a greater expression until he had the understanding and the support of the universe around him to transcend the normal laws, the way everybody thought that it was, and create what is the truth and what was the truth. And then, like people that he saw that had a belief about the condition in their body, once in several of these instances, he was able to communicate right to them from his heart to their heart to say, this is the picture of you that God sees. And they would say, I want to see it too. I really want to see it. And then they would take it, and then that would be their new picture. And what they were then, how they saw themselves at that moment, shattered the old picture, and they were transformed. And we've seen this happen. It has happened with individuals we've known. It's happened in our own lives on occasion. And it's going to happen over and over again. It could start happening today when we take responsibility. We believe that God will help us find what we want, because we'll think of ways to develop it. We'll overcome thoughts that defeat us. We'll use our brain, because what we think about, we bring about. And it's not what happens to you in your life, or it doesn't matter what has happened to you in your life. What matters is how you think about it. And if you look back at what happened and what you were thinking then, and you correct those thoughts and upgrade them now, then there will be a healing there, so that you're not limited. So you can just step on it and evolve and grow and be that special creation of God that you were sent here to be. I think we need to say thank you to Jesus for being the one who broke through that first little pearl that went way ahead of all the others and said, come on, guys, let's catch up here. We need to be thankful for him, his life, his style, his energy, his spiritual blueprint that he's given to all of us. And then locking arms, not following on coattails, but locking arms with that same initial spirit of God. And then stepping up to be all that we've been created to be. I think that's our job. That's what it's time to do that. Again, we take responsibility. We believe that this is the truth about us, and we decide, well, how am I going to do this now? And then we tell everything that would get in the way, the laundry list and the shopping list and all that. You're just going to have to wait, because I'm have to take care of me, and then the more of me there is, the more of you will be taken care of. So you just wait your turn right there, because I am a spiritual being with a loving heart and a brilliant mind, and it's time now for me to take responsibility, know what I want, put it in writing, review that so that it is a fiber of my being, and then watch the miracles start to happen. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. And then we do this little ritual of bowing our heads. That represents humility. We're humble and open. Then, as we close our eyes, we shut out the distractions of the world around us. And then we can see within. And as we see within, we see that ancient soul that we are. We see that heart that's loving, understanding, open, forgiving, generous. And then we see the intelligence of thought that activates the possibilities and invigorates us with the desire for greater results. And then we see this whole package, heart, soul, and mind of God. God's gift to our world, which is us. And Father, for this gift, we give thanks. For the role model of Jesus, who laid out the blueprint to show us how this could be done, we give thanks for him. We give thanks for every obstacle we've had to overcome. We give thanks for every obstacle in the future. We give thanks for the power that you have given us to shape our results of our life through our thinking, and then to our heart, and from our soul that is always one with you. Father, for this truth that we believe, that we know, that we accept, that sets us free. For this truth we give thanks in your name. Amen. Okay.